Welcome back to Chill Dill Trades. Using my 12 years of experience to teach you a little bit about the stock market. So we talked about a lot of stocks this week. A lot of videos. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. I make multiple videos a week, both short and long form, to kind of give you an update on what's happening in the market and stocks to keep an eye on. So let's hop into some of the stocks we talked about, analyze them, and see what is going on. But first, want to show the current portfolio. So we are having a killer year actually. We're only down on really two stocks. I personally think they're going to be making a comeback soon, but we've been having a killer year, like multiple stocks up 30%. I will be sharing more of these as we go along together. So again, join the journey, join the channel, and let's make this a killer trading year. Going to the first thing, let's check out the SPY. SPY is at a very important level, everybody. It is trying to break all-time highs. This is going to be really important to see where the stock market goes next. From a pattern perspective, I think we're in a really healthy phase. We see volume going down. We like to call that kind of going up the wall of worry, right? Like a lot of news has been coming out lately. Tariffs, reciprocal tariffs, trade wars, international conflicts. And sometimes what we'll see like a little bit of declining volume. Sometimes the stock just kind of climbs. So right now we're in a trading range still. That's a very important note, guys. Trading range, nothing has changed there. So until we can break out of that trading range, which we're right at the edge of glory, we'll see if we can break out. If not, the same trend is continuing. We're still in this sideways range until we break out. Sometimes what happens when we're starting to test all-time highs is we'll see a gap down or below. So if we see a gap up next week, maybe on Monday because of something coming out on the weekend, we come back and test. That is a very good sign for the markets. If we come back and test, that means that we are ready for the next move. And really that's like, we have some kind of very loose technicals here telling us where it could go, but it's really hard to tell here. We have the 50-day starting to straighten out, which is a good sign, kind of finding a base of support and ready to move. We kind of have this triangle, kind of ascending triangle. I honestly don't know how strong that is, but more strong is we've had this long up and down, right? Like touching the bottom, touching the top, touching the bottom. So in theory, if we can stay in this kind of break above this resistance sideways pattern, get back into this long-term run, we could see like, what is that up? We could see like a 130 or 630, 640 if we get some really strong momentum here. So it's something we'll want to keep an eye on, but the market's not looking too bad if we can break out. I don't want a 30-day trial right now. Going to the Qs, same story. We're right at breakout point. So, like breakout. I would say the SPY or QQQs are even a little more important because we're kind of double topping. So if we can't break out here, we have these two little circles at the top. And so we really want to break out of this. It kind of looks like a smiley face, but kind of similar chart to the SPY, right? Like we've had this upward range for quite a while. We've been going sideways as more recent. So we really need to break out if we have any chance of going higher here. So pay attention to see, again, if we break out, if we gap up. We're kind of in that middle range right now, which when markets go sideways, they like to hang around the middle of that. And so let's see if we can break out. I would say something different about the Qs is we have this high point over here. And if we compare the Qs, we had a much higher top here compared to the top where we're at now. And so we do kind of have this other triangle here. And so I think for the Qs, like we have potentially not as high of a target. Come on, TradingView, don't do this to me. We have a little bit less high. We have 556 where the Qs have maybe a higher potential range to move into, but we're pretty healthy. Like, we're looking good on the RSI, has room to move. Things have stabilized, so we'll see if the market can move higher. Next stock, AMD, the most hated stock in the market. I made a very long video on AMD. So if you want to learn more about AMD, maybe where it's headed, the details that you should know about the stock in the long term, go watch that video. I cover everything from technicals all the way to fundamentals, all the way to like what could drive growth in the future. So go watch that video. But AMD, we're still not in a great spot. I would say it's very, very good that we held this kind of 105 range, right? Like if we go back in time, we have just so much kind of support in this range, right? It's the first time that we're back in this zone. And so we really needed that 105, 107 to hold, is what I mentioned in the video. And very important, we broke back above about the 110 to 112. So we're back there. This is very key. The next thing that we want to see this week is breaking above the 20 SMA, right? Like RSI is healthy. We've kind of stabilized here. But what we see in the past, broke above, back below the 20, broke above, back below, broke above, back low, broke above, back below, tested, failed, down lower, didn't, and we'll see what happens this time. We really do need to break that 20 SMA. If not, this stock is either going lower or probably retesting this bottom around 107 to 105. But again, I'm bullish long-term AMD. It's not financial advice, but I'm bullish long-term AMD. I believe we're in a super cycle still. I don't think we've reached the peaks of the market or the peaks specifically in the semis. I have two other positions, like I shared you. I think they're respectively up like, I think 20 and 10% or something along the lines of that. So those positions are doing really well. And I think the rest of the semis are still going to still work well. I don't think we're past the chips and kind of the hardware part of AI boom yet. I still think there's so much demand as we've seen these large companies continue to spend on parts, but we are moving more into the software part. And I'll talk about that a lot more as we move along this channel. What softwares do we need to keep an eye on that are going to benefit from AI? Because we are going to see the shift there, and we're going to see margins go up on software. Just like they're doing now for hardware, like margins are going up because there's so much demand, they can charge so much. But eventually we're going to see even higher in some software categories. So going back here, we just need to break above the 20, 115. And personally for me, I really want to get back towards this 120 zone, even if we can break above the 120. Again, zooming out, we have kind of these zones of resistance now. This 130 range back here is around the 112. So I'd really love to move out of this downwards triangle. I shared it in the other video, like we've been going down this triangle of doom, but I really want to break out, and I want the stock start to stabilize here. Like I would even like to stay above 112, but if I can eat some more shares up here, that'd be great. Like to break out, come back, test this zone, and then see some positive momentum. And we might have seen the bottom in AMD. But again, look at the 20. The 20 is so important. This has told us the story since October. If it fails, it's going lower, so we really need to break that trend. Alibaba, I shared this, I believe, both a video and a short on this on Monday, and you guys should have bought. That's just the real deal there. But it's skyrocketing. I will say that I believe this is now overbought significantly. Just look at the RSI historically. When we start getting to these 80 levels, you see what's happened every time. 80s sold off. 80s sold off, 80s sold off. Do I think that Alibaba is moving past the bear market? I do believe that. I think China stocks are moving out of a bear market. I think the dollar will start weakening soon. Maybe not right now, but as we cut spending, things like that, we will see inflation come down and the dollar start to decline in value, and that will be good for emerging markets. But for Alibaba specifically, we want this stock. Again, like I mentioned in the video, go watch my long video on Alibaba. I break down China, I break down Alibaba. Go watch that video now. It's going to give you a lot more insight. But we're hitting this really important resistance zone. If we zoom out even farther, bottom, right, bounced off. That just means there's so much supply here still, guys. So much supply. And so it's going to take most likely more than one attempt to break out of this really important move. So I would like to see it go lower. We see the 20-day starting to move up violently, but we need to create a better trend here, right? Like let's let's just assume it started here, which I do not think this is true. But that's a decent angle, right? Maybe let's even make it a little bit more aggressive. You know, like that's a decently healthy angle, but I do believe it'll be a little bit more steep for Alibaba. But I would like this to come back down to this 105-ish range. I shared this in a short that I made, but you see kind of this 105-ish area have a lot of candles stick up. And so I wanted to come back to this 100 to 105 range, kind of like it did at the 80s. So like I shared, the 80s was a breakout. I bought there, rode this up, made a nice little chunk of change. And now I want the same thing at the 100-ish mark. I want this to come back down. I want this to create a better line, something kind of like that. If it can create that, we are stomping back up, probably to a positive trend for Alibaba. Right now, it's just being hyped off news, but we do need a shift to a sustainable move higher, which means breaking up, coming back to support, breaking higher, coming back to support, higher lows, higher lows. You hear it on the market everywhere, but we want to see higher lows. I do have a target of 150 to 170 this year. I think that's pretty fair value, even if we discount Chinese stocks. We don't know what the government's doing with stimulus. We still know that the economy's not in a great place, but I do have a 150 to 170 just based on where past kind of supply is from where the stock was. So that is mine, but I am waiting. Again, I put BABA is a trade, not a hold. Chinese stocks are still too risky, but watch this come back, look for an entrance spot, and we want an up and down trend. Next stock. This is getting a long video. Uber, I hope you're still here. If you are, hope you're getting something out of this. Support me, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Patreon, $5 a month. That would be great. Okay, Uber stock. Uber stock's in a weird place. If we really zoom out, honestly, quite a bit, we've been in this sideways pattern since January 24, so a year, right? Like it's been stuck there. But we've been having some really great news come out lately, and I do believe Uber is going to go higher. Is it right this moment? I don't know. We're kind of back to this RSI, getting to this overbought territory. So I mentioned in the other video, you know, maybe this does need to come back a bit. We did see it come back and almost hit the support zone that I said, which was around $73, which is a good thing. But still, like, I don't love these straight up candles. I want to create something more sustainable, maybe like getting back to this long-term trend line or creating a more upward trend line off this. But personally, once we see Uber break above this, you know, 80-ish, $82 range, like this guy is going crazy. There's so much purchasing that's happened here over the last year. When we see these really long consolidation periods, what that means is momentum. Momentum's building, right? Like, and as that momentum builds up and it gets squeezed, buy, all these big money's buying in. As soon as we break out of that, this thing goes rocket ship. And so honestly, I bought this at 60 on the dip. I would say on a big pullback, there's still probably an entry point that's worth at this point. I do see probably from a valuation perspective, you know, Uber going to $125 in the medium term. And then I think that the stock could double, you know, up towards 150, 160. But that's a longer term play. Right now, we need this to come back. Like I said, come back, end the video. Go watch all my other videos, guys. My shorts. I do shorts like 10 videos a week in shorts that break down these stocks so you stay updated. But we wanted to hit off here and break back up. Lyft stock. Lyft is a stock that I don't have a position in, to be completely transparent, but I have been keeping an eye on it for many reasons. One, the valuation is just stupid. It's so cheap right now. It's cheap because Uber is kind of destroying them. If you add Uber plus the autonomous stuff, news is coming out, even though I don't think it's a big deal for these companies, that does create negative sentiment. But I am starting to like Lyft. I think it's a little undercover gem here. They are now a profitable company. I made a short on this. I'll probably make a longer video soon. With Uber as well, they are a profitable company now. I do believe they will continue to be a profitable company after their first quarter and their first year, I believe, of profitability. And so now we just need to see, there's a lot of big institutions buying in this year, like just in the first few months of the year and some of the last months of last year. But kind of similar to the other stocks like AMD, you know, we're still in this trading range, one thing. right? Like to really see anything significant, we have to break out of that, which is above like 18 bucks. If we break above 18, then you know this thing is going to like $30. So risk reward really, right? Like on the downside, in the worst case scenario, you go back to $9. I don't believe that's happening. If it does come back, it's probably to the 12-ish dollar range, maybe 10 in the worst case scenario. But you have crazy upside. To my point around software and artificial intelligence and robotics, like Lyft is a company that's going to benefit from that substantially. And so we are having this very weak uptrend, but more importantly, we're still in this sideways action, kind of like Lyft or Uber. You know, the momentum's building. It's been building for a while. We see big institutions buying in here. And so once we do see a breakout, like this thing is going to go crazy. I promise you that this stock is going to go crazy. Now that I'm looking at a longer term time frame here, let's just put this long term thing in here so we can keep track of that. That's like super long term. The longer you look out, if you break things from the longer time frames, that's more powerful. So let's just keep it on the chart so we have it. And then we also have this gap at let's put a mark there too, so we have that as a reminder. We have that gap at $30. So again, like I said, if this thing can break out of this trading range, hold, and say I'm ready to go, this thing, you'll double your money on this if you want to buy now in this range. Last stock, PayPal. This is a position I may or may not hold. I made a short video on it. Some guy tried to roast me using lag indicators. We'll see who was right. I said it'll come back to around this 200 SMA. Seeing the 200 SMA start to improve here, and if we can hold the 200 SMA, in my opinion, that says that PayPal is out of its bear phase. Kind of like other stocks, this thing's been going sideways forever. What is that, like 2 years or something, or a whole year? Yeah, it's like 3 years bear market, which is insane. But we're coming back to test this kind of lower trading range, and if we can hold this 75, again, I think this stock is most likely out of its bear phase if we hold this and it starts moving higher again. This is a big pro for PayPal. Even though they're growing slowly, they're buying back shares. They have a new credit card, which I think is honestly the smartest idea for PayPal. Why did they not have a credit card years ago? As digital banking has grown, they have these awesome Will Ferrell commercials. I'm also going to do a long video on PayPal, so be on the lookout for that. But I do have PayPal as a potential to moving out of its bear phase with a lot of upside. Just look historically. Like even if we can't give it valuations of like what it was at $300 a share, like even it goes back to 120 bucks, like look at your gains on there. If it closes this gap 150, like you're doubling your money at that point. So keep an eye on this, see if it can hold this range. And if so, then we might have a winner here. But thanks for watching. I appreciate you watching this video. If you made it this far, I just brought that up on accident. You are a real one. Here are gains for the years again. Keep watching the channel. Subscribe. I'll be making videos all the time. And let's win in the market together this year. See you guys later.